welcome to our Maker Monday Happy Birthday Party. So before I say anything else, I want to give you a little background. So rewind to March of 2020, and the National Art Education Association Conference was canceled, and that was heartbreaking. But as a result, NASCO decided to do something called NASCO Go Live. We were going to check out this whole webinar thing, and these people sitting with me were going to be my guests. And I was super excited. And within a 2-week time frame, the world shut down, the nation shut down. And so they still joined, but they joined via GoToWebinar. And we had a blast, and it was awesome. But it still made me sad because this was the team that would have joined me. So let me just finish in terms of, we can sit at this table today because all 4 of us are fully vaccinated. So happy about that. There's no one else in the building. Besides Andy, our producer and director, and he's wearing a mask, and we're keeping him safe as well. So we are following the CDC guidelines. But the success of the webinar, that particular webinar, is why NASCO decided to keep having this good thing going. And one thing led to another, and the next thing you know, Maker Monday was branded. A huge shout out to Tanya Webster, who came up with the branding and has done such a great job on social media, posting it, and always making us look extra good in print. Also, I got a shout out to, this is local, I believe Milwaukee area, it's Get Caked, and Tanya helped us connect with some super good treats. I wish I could share them with all of you, but at least they look arty and beautiful. So thank you to Get Caked. She doesn't ship yet, so I can't really brag her up too much other than a shout out to say thank you. So now back to the future and this extraordinary group of humans that I'm sitting with. Next to me is Angie Szabo. She's a high school teacher from Fort Atkinson. Her passion for art education absolutely matches her unbelievable talent as an artist. And what I love is how willing she is to share all of that in effort to help other teachers. So Angie, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Kris.
Next is Susie Belzer. Also from Fort Atkinson. She teaches at Rockwell. Yes,
Rockwell Elementary.
She used to teach at 2, so now she's just at Rockwell. I got it right. She also is an amazing artist, and I love how she makes her art room a beautiful space for students to begin not only to learn the art, but also techniques on how to be beautiful humans. Next to me is Devon Calvert, art teacher at 2 elementary schools in Milton, Harmony and Consolidated. He teaches K to 3rd grade, and his curriculum includes utilizing a wide variety of contemporary artists. So every child learns that our world is full of beautifully diverse people and cultures. Now, throw in a pandemic, he's also the PE and music teacher. We're going to talk about that in a little bit, though. So you guys, thank you so much. Hands down, it's a highlight for me. I swear to God, I've been semi-emotional all day about it because I live for you guys and for all of you. Like, this is who I am and what I do. So I'm super, super excited for you to be here. With that, we are going to start off the session. Let me make sure I didn't forget anything. We're going to start off the session, and hello to everybody who's saying hi. I'd shout y'all out, but I'm going to be in trouble because I'm going to lose track of time. So I'm going to start off with the year of Maker Mondays and just a whole lot of recognition. No specific order, but just this was our year in a quick review. I can't even believe how all of those folks really set the stage for successful Maker Mondays. And all of you that have joined in, you have made it such a great year. So thank you so much. Kind of a big shout out too to Laura Dant. Hands down, has watched like 37 of these live with us. So I just want to like say, Laura, thank you. So first, let's just talk a little bit about the crazy year that we have been in and what has happened from March of last year to now. And I'm starting off with Devin. First, can we just talk a little bit about when you did Hip to Be Contemporary? So tell us a little bit about that workshop and what you did for us on the Maker Monday.
So I've actually had the opportunity to present that session loads of times. If you ever attended the WAEA conference, I've done it there. Contemporary art is really my passion. I found that when I first started teaching, the students always ask me, well, is this artist living? And that was the first question. I always got so sick of saying, no, they died like 100 years ago, 200 years ago. So I decided, you know what, I'm just going to put the whole kibosh on this question. So I started to only teach contemporary artists to my third graders. So they really look forward to that every year because they know once they get to third grade, every artist that we're going to talk about is a living artist. They're relevant. They're making artwork that matters about themes and topics that are current. And I have not had that question in a really long time, which is great too.
I'm not kidding you though. If you didn't see it, and this is a little bit of a shameless plug for Nasco Educate. Nasco Educate is a subscription-based platform that we use to house all of the Maker Mondays, all of the professional development that all of Nasco does. It's relatively inexpensive. That's another time and place, but feel free to ask me about it anytime. But it's so worth it because he gave like so many lesson plans he was just like lesson plan, lesson plan, lesson plan. It was unreal and people were super, super stoked about it. But you do a lot of those on a YouTube channel, correct?
Yes. Yep.
Tell us about that.
So this is my 6th year teaching. I actually started doing the flipped classroom my first year teaching. So really coming into the pandemic and having to videotape myself, it was nothing new. But I have like 250, 300 videos on my YouTube page. Just about every project I've ever taught that has been videotaped and uploaded to YouTube. So it's a great place to look. You can find me on YouTube at Devon Calvert. So DEVON, and then Calvert is CALVERT. And I try to break it down into playlists. So if you want to teach about Monet, you can go and find his name on my playlist. And then I have all my videos ordered and how I go about teaching my projects, as well as any supplemental videos that I might show along with that.
Also, tell us a little bit about how life as an art teacher changed drastically this year. It's still your favorite though, isn't it?
It is, yes, it is. So I typically,
no matter what, say yes. No.
I typically work at 2 schools. One of my schools is really small. It's a K-3 building that only has 1 class per grade. So there are only 4 classes in the entire school. And because of the pandemic, they were trying to minimize how many people were moving around the school. And also because of the pandemic and that being such a small school that they didn't actually have enough aides to provide preps for those teachers. So they asked me if I would teach Phi-Ed, music, and art this year. So it's been a really fast year for me. I'm always doing something different. I get 2 art classes a day, 2 music classes a day, and 2 Phi-Ed classes a day. Even though I have this deep Frank Sinatra crooner voice, it does not sound that good when I sing.
So there won't be a solo?
No, thank goodness we haven't had to sing for a couple months now. But
and I didn't see like an instrument case coming in, so.
No, we've been learning guitar and piano on the iPads, but no, I can at least tell you what some of the notes are now, which I couldn't tell you anything about music before this year started.
Did you have rhythm though? And I only say that because my daughter sings beautifully, like, I mean, truly gifted and talented in her voice. And like, if there's a clap along, if somebody's clapping off beat, I will clap off beat right along with them. It's something that it's not in me. Like, clearly I gave her all my musical ability, but I'm curious, like, how, was that something that you had? Like,
I'm still not very good at it. I've had almost a year of practice now, but I'm getting better.
do you start recognizing things in music now?
A little bit, yeah. I can start to pick up a few things. I'm still no pro by any means. Phy Ed's been a blast, though. I keep joking that I'm going to get my master's in physical education. I love getting out there and playing the games with the students. They seem to dig it too.
No doubt you have absolutely solidified yourself as the best teacher in the school and the favorite. Because I know prior to this, like, everybody already loved you. So I'm just guessing that, like, now it's like, Devin, except they probably say Mr. Calvert.
It's always been a competition between like me and the other specials teachers to see who was the favorite. And now there's no choice this year. I have to be the favorite.
That is the beauty of being one of the specials. And so what do you think the best piece, what do you think, I'm not going to say the best piece of advice, but what's your biggest takeaway of this year?
To me, it was just don't fret. There's no changing it, just do it, I guess. Don't think about it, just have fun doing it and accept the changes. That if you're going to worry about it, you're going to stress yourself out and you're probably not going to enjoy it. I've actually had a good time this year, even through everything that's happened. I
love that so much. Well, next we are going to highlight Susie Belzer. So Susie was on Go Live, but then she also appeared in Lines Galore through a video that she had done with us. And so first tell us a little bit about that lesson plan, because this lesson plan can be found on Nasco Education. So just our regular website, nascoeducation.com. You can find these free lesson plans, and we have a little example, and tell us a little bit about that first.
Okay, so this lesson plan was one that we did for one of the art ed conferences, wasn't it? The Art of Education. Yep, we did one of the videos. And so this was our Lines Galore lesson plan. We started off really wanting to do something that involved the bingo daubers. If you're an elementary teacher, you probably recognize these. You put India ink in them. We know India ink's a little expensive, and so sometimes you could add a little bit of water to try to stretch it out a little bit. But our littlest learners especially love these because they make that thick, beautiful black line, which we love. This lesson was a little bit inspired by Romero Brito, which my students love. We did a lot of animals this year in Brito style, but this one was for our younger learners where we're working on all sorts of different types of lines, like vertical, horizontal, zigzag, and they created lines with the bingo daubers. And then we were working on filling in the other space with additional lines. We also tried it out where you could put texture plates behind it and do texture rubbings with oil pastels and watercolor it over. We use liquid watercolors, but pan watercolors would work as well. And it's not to say that you can't do this with older students as well, because I can absolutely see that our middle school and high school students would love this because it's like a giant Sharpie marker. So it's always a hit.
A fun story about the India ink and elementary students and just students in general, but I went to a workshop and it was Tasha Newton who was using India ink, and she did it. She put some India ink on and she pauses and said something, but then she took her paper and did this. So, you know, your kids do everything that you did. So I put the India ink on and took my paper and did that fast. And we were at a college and we were in a math room and the India ink went flying and went on the carpet. I was dying a million times because I'm like, Wisconsin Art Ed is going to get kicked out of this college for life because of me. So yeah, it's amazing how you can contain all those tiny littles and they don't do what I do.
Even virtually. Yeah, I got really brave by the end of virtual teaching, and I sent these home for my kindergartners in a little baggie with the directions, and only one came back where like it was clearly had overflowed, and the mom texted me like a sad face, sorry, Mrs. Belzer. I'm like, it's okay.
That is excellent. You did a lot of demoing online too.
I do. And like Devin, I've been doing my YouTube channel for maybe it's coming up on 4 years. It's also my name. Like, I wish that I would have thought of something like way more creative at the time, but my YouTube channel is just Mrs. Belzer because it's easy for the kids to remember, like if they want to go look at it. And so doing a flipped classroom is something that I got into back in like the spring of maybe 2017 when I went to NAEA, and I went to one of the sessions there, and the presenter was so amazing. And I went home, I invested in a GoPro camera. I got like all of this equipment. I got a Mac, like, and then I've quickly like scaled back my thing. I don't use a GoPro camera. I use my cell phone. I put 2 stools and 2 yardsticks up, and I put my cell phone above my table space and do some pretty good videos. So again, like flipping was not an issue last spring for me at all.
I love that you shared both the like the GoPro professional side and then your hack, because it's people's reality so much.
Yeah.
Oh, I lost my train of thought, and I hate that when I do that. Oh no, what I was going to say is you are also part of like the art teachers of Instagram as well, correct? Tell us a little bit about your Instagram, and do you post videos there?
I do. Yeah. With the IGTV, I don't do as much of it. I feel like I really scaled back like during the pandemic because we were teaching so much online that really like my social media has kind of dropped way off. But like it's just in the last month that I've started using it a little bit more. But I do share my demo videos on IGTV and just try to direct people to the YouTube channel. And I think my favorite thing about Instagram is the friendships that I've made. Like I have a close pack of girls that we chat on Marco Polo, and we video chat each other pretty much every day. And Instagram was our connection.
That is so cool. I really appreciate too what a great job of like shouting others out. I mean, you know, like nobody owns the rights to like Romero Brito, or nobody owns the rights to like pottery or metal making or contemporary artists, things like that. But it's always nice when you see somebody that has inspired you to do something to say, hey, check out this artist, check out this art teacher, check out, you know, how they do it. And you guys as art teachers and artists just do such a great job springboarding off of the lesson plans we put out, as well as social media, stuff like that. So I think that's good. What's your biggest takeaway this year?
I think this year we had to let go of a lot of things. Like we had to, like, especially at the end of last year, we grieved a lot of losses that we didn't get to do with our kids. And then this year was about almost like lowering our expectations, because when, at least for our school district, we're still teaching concurrently. So we have virtual and in-person kids at the same time. And if you're too hard on yourself, you feel like you're not doing a good job in either setting, and that can be really discouraging. And so I think the biggest thing was just learning to like let go a little. And I got a little more brave too. Like I was very afraid to take risks for a while, and everything had to be 2D and very, very simple. And then I ended up sending plaster strips home and bingo daubers home. And I like let go of that concern about the mess. I'm like, I think through the end of it, it was just kind of like, this is going to be okay, because we're trying to provide an awesome experience.
I love that you're trying to provide an awesome experience, because I would want that as a student. And also too, at any given point in time, if you have a question or want to join in, it doesn't have to just be me. This is our first time on what like would be the art teacher view.
Yeah, I feel like we're newscasters.
I know,
like,
right? Exactly.
Devin's up with the weather next.
So on those sending those materials home, how did you make that part of it work? Because I know that there's still virtual happening.
Oh yeah.
And so how do you make that work?
Baggies were my best friend. Like the quart size, like the really good. I mean, it didn't have to be like the name brand. You could get the Walmart brand, but the quart size baggies were awesome. The ones that had the little label on the outside where you're supposed to write the date. That's where you could write the name, the class code. And then anything that was super messy, I would print out directions and fold them up and stick them inside. And then each classroom teacher had like big portfolios. And we set up our elementary kids way at the beginning of the year with art kits. So everybody had a zippered pouch with their own supplies. So we're still not sharing supplies even now. And so if a kid has to switch, you know, from platform to platform, like you do at this time, we can just send their art kit home and they have all their stuff and they're good to go.
That is fantastic. As both elementary art teachers, are you both back in your buildings?
Yes.
Yep.
Are you in your own room or do you have to art on a card it?
I'm in my own room and I've been able to be in my own room, which is amazing. It's a gift.
Yeah.
I'm carting it.
Yep. Was that new for you?
It is. I only teach 2 art classes a day now because I'm teaching 2 ed, 2 music, 2 art. So it's not that big of a deal. And with it only being 4 classes in my entire school, it's literally like a hallway. So it's not very hard to get from one
Right.
class to the next. So it really wasn't too big of a deal.
What'd you use for a cart?
One of those carts that they used to put the big tube TVs
The
on.
AV cart.
Yeah, the
Oh.
AV cart, yep. So it's like a tank when I come down the hallway. Just watch out.
I am seriously like dumbfounded at what people do. There is a group, a Facebook group called Art on a Cart. Interestingly enough, this was out way before the pandemic. So like kudos to that group of people that have kept this going. And in the pandemic, no doubt a ton of people joined that group and have shared ideas. And we actually had 2 teachers that did a Maker Monday on Art on a Cart. Sunny Myers and Debbie Scarborough from Florida. So good. Like Debbie, like even brought in, like I said, did you like zip tie some stuff on? And she's like, oh no, I brought in my drill. And I'm like, what? Like that is so classic art teacher, but so many great tips and techniques and things like that. So as we are talking about these, or if there's a session that in the super fast slideshow that we did, if there's a session that you saw that you might have wanted, you know, reach out to me and I can always give you a little sample of that. But every time you register to watch a Maker Monday, if you can't make it, you always get the video link to watch later, and you can certainly save it and share it. And now that it's Zoom, it makes it even easier. All right, last but not least is representing high school, which is where I check out because because I seriously, I go there and I'm like, is this high school or is it collegiate level? And I give Angie all the props for that. So Angie was part of Go Live, but then she also did a pop can art lesson, and it was pop can jewelry. So talk first a little bit about that.
Well, last year, when everything went poof and we were out of school for, I think, was it 2 weeks, Susie? Where we're just like out, and then we went back virtually and we had to provide you know, lessons and experiences for our students, but we couldn't provide things related to new curriculum, and we had no way to get materials to our kids. In fact, we couldn't even go into the school. So I was left teaching art, metals and fibers and sculpture and drawing, AP art and art seminar with my students having who knows what at home. And I think sculpture and metals were a little harder than drawing because most people have things they can draw with at home. And so I was looking for different things to teach with and to do metals with, and soda cans are a pretty easy source of metal and they're pretty easy to work with, and you can mimic real metals techniques on the aluminum cans. So that's where that one came from. And it was I think my first video I made for YouTube.
Yeah,
I think.
First or second?
I was just going to say that was like the birth of you doing YouTube.
Yes.
What is your YouTube channel?
I am A.H. Szabo Design. So I named it, instead of after like teacher me, I named it after artist me because I thought I could be more diverse in the
Oh,
stuff I
very good.
posted. I have not posted any art related stuff just because my personal art, You know, like Susie was saying, social media kind of fell off and all the busyness. Same here. And also my art, I've still made works this year, but not nearly like I normally do. But yeah, I, out of necessity, had to start doing videos. I went to the same session that Susie was inspired at to start making videos. And I was like, geez, I really want to make videos too. And then every time I thought about it, I was like, I'll do it later. And then I was like, I hate how I look on camera. And then I was like, I don't like how I sound. But then, you know, I was on Zoom every day. I was like, I can do this and I need to do it. And so I don't have nearly the same number of videos that Devin and Susie had, but I have made, it's like 60 or 70 or 80 videos this year.
Which, since you just started last spring, I mean, that's huge.
It's been a lot of work. I'm kind of videoed out at this point. I have a couple I need to finish up and I'm putting them off again, but yeah, it's been great. When we were 100% virtual in the beginning of the year, doing a live demo on Zoom is really, really hard to do. And so I could shoot the video to my students, give them something that broke things down, gave them a good view of things. I use a phone just like Susie does. And then my Mac, I use QuickTime to do like front facing videos. And then since we've been back in person, it's like in person online, it still continues to be a good tool. My students love it because they can go back and watch stuff when they're confused or just want to dig in again, or like we've gotten ahead and they're still back here and they need to catch up and I don't have time to get them totally caught up. So it's been really great. And I set mine up kind of like Devin's, where I have playlists. I have a drawing playlist, medals, a sculpture, and I organize it in order. So like if you wanted to take Intro to Drawing with me, you could go to my drawing playlist and basically every demo I give is in order there. And then there you go. You took Intro to Drawing with Angie Szabo. Woohoo!
Note to self, seriously. She did teach me how to draw like a Tootsie Pop roll. Oh my gosh.
You did
So-
a beautiful Tootsie Pop roll.
You know, it's those aha moments that I just am like, I need to go back to high school and learn art. But I get real worried about like homecoming and prom and that all that kind of
Oh my
stuff
God,
because
the drama.
I don't need any of that. But on the note of virtual learning, there were 2 Maker Mondays. One that from Buffalo Public Schools, Michelle Augusto and Rachel Lyons did best practices in virtual learning. That was outstanding. And it ranged all the way from some lesson plans that they did to like really like dealing with social justice, because, you know, 2020 was quite tumultuous with political and social justice issues. And they were really allowing kids to use their voice, and they found that their kids really stayed really engaged. So that one was really good. Another fantastic one was Bob Reeker, who I believe is joining us. Hey, Bob. And he came on for the online art teacher K-12 service group, which is also a website and a Facebook group that was birthed out of the pandemic. They said, hey, we have a need. They jumped on it like instantly, and they are, I think, nearly 10,000 strong. And 20,000 strong. Dang, I know. You know, in my world, I'm all about colors and lines and pretty things and not so much about numbers. But it's amazing, and so much. And like they have like, I know all of you guys have joined and I've seen you post, but they have like a whole Google thing that you can get any information that you want out there. And so that will still be going for a little bit. And as life returns back to somewhat normal, they will let you know when that stops, because these are people that did this out of the beauty of their own heart. You know what I mean? And honestly, I say that about all of the people that have participated in Maker Monday. Like, they come because they want to share. Like, you and I spoke a couple different times about like the social emotional part of this whole pandemic and the importance of reaching out to kids. Talk a little bit about that, especially at the high school level.
Right. that's always been a really important part of what I do as a teacher. I think what we all do as a teacher, and especially in the art rooms, I think we just see a little more. It comes out a little bit more clearly. I think we have a little more one-on-one time with students than a lot of teachers do. And so we notice.
And it had to be crazy looking into children's homes.
What killed me is we lost a student to suicide last year at the high school. And I know many of you have had similar experiences in your communities. It wasn't a student that I knew, but it was a student that was close to some of my students. And I remember, it's so hard to know how to address all of that. It's such a difficult, heart-wrenching situation. But I lost a student to suicide my third year of teaching, somebody I was pretty close with. And so when things like that happen, a death of a student, I know it's really important to let kids know you're there and that you hear them and you know that they're hurting. And if they need someone to talk to, that you're there. And it was a group of my sculpture kids all online in Zoom. And part of what was hard last year is, and earlier this year, when kids walk into my room, you look at them and you can tell from their face, from their body, from just knowing them that something's off, and you can't tell that on Zoom.
Right.
And that was hard for me because I felt like I wasn't doing my job protecting my kids. But I mentioned in one class of sculpture kids, some pretty tough stuff happened, and if you want to stay after and talk, I'm here. And I had 3 young ladies stay after that I didn't know were friends with this young woman. And, they were just really thankful somebody said something because no one else had said something. Because I think it's uncomfortable, right?
Right.
But it's been a hard year for everybody, beyond horrible tragedies like that. There's communities that have been ravaged by COVID, and I've had students that have lost people. I've had students that have had parents in the hospital that they thought were going to die, that didn't die, thankfully. And then at the same time, all of our students are going through these really difficult things that we have to help them with and notice and talk to them and say something. And even if it's only, I'm here if you want to talk, and it's okay if you don't right now. I want you to know I'm here. I think it's important people know there's somebody. But we are also really struggling. I struggle with, I point to, but like all of us, right? I'm not, yeah.
There's nobody
right.
that is not affected by
Right.
this craziness.
So I know my own anxiety this year has gone up. I've had to increase my anxiety meds. I lost my grandma. My children have been going through some things too at home, and trying to balance like my own mental health and my students' mental health has been a real struggle this year. And there's been some heartbreaking moments and there's been some good moments, but I think through all of it, we have each other's back. And, I can call if I need to. I know I can call Susie. I can talk with Frank, my coworker at the high school, my family. And I have to say, like, my students have been like some of my biggest support. And I'm not like spilling my heart to them, but they're just there with a smile every day, and they're happy to be there. And if they're not happy, we talk, and it gives me purpose. And there was one day when after my grandma passed that I like broke down crying. I just couldn't, I was trying to hold everything together, and they were just so loving, and I think that we're blessed to teach and work with students. They're just amazing.
Absolutely. Melody says, as Debbie West says, #together we are better, classic Debbie West. And honestly, Debbie did 2 sessions with us for Maker Monday. Her last session that she did was called filling up your art teacher bucket, because every day you are filling up your students' buckets. You are pouring out of yourself, and that takes a lot. It's like being a caretaker. You give and give and give, and sometimes your bucket gets a little bit empty, and I'm available to call to fill your bucket up, but I'm occasionally out too. So you need to learn ways to how do you fill your bucket up? I'm curious, what do you do for self-care? Let's just go down the line. Susie, what do you do?
I think making art is a big self-care for me. And if I'm not making art, something's wrong. And that's been a struggle this year. Yeah. Like at my craft room door, there were like weeks where the door was shut and I wasn't sewing and I wasn't putting anything together. And if I'm not making art, it's not good.
Such a good release.
It is. Yes.
I am kind of fortunate. I'm kind of like a goldfish. I have a very short memory. So oftentimes, if I do get upset about something, it usually doesn't last too long for me, but I am very fortunate that my wife is also an elementary art educator too. So she doesn't just connect with me about if I'm having a problem, but she like really understands that she's doing the exact same thing that I'm doing. So she's a really great person I can come to talk to about any problems I'm having. And we purchased the house like just before the pandemic started. So my honey-do list is ridiculously long. So I can always just work on that too.
That's excellent. I giggle because I have a husband who's a concrete contractor. And so he understands physical labor and how that is hard and tiring. He doesn't understand that you can not do something physical and be emotionally exhausted. Like he doesn't quite get that. So I clearly have to reach out to other people for that kind of stuff as well. Susie or Angie,
It's okay.
Angie, Susie to Angie. See, I too am a goldfish. I can't remember your names. We just met. No, I'm kidding.
10 years now I've known you, Kris.
I know,
Isn't
when you
that
posted
crazy?
that, I died.
10
Got name
years.
tags.
What's that?
Name tags.
Yes, just tattoo it on my face. So self-care, making art as well. I've not had as much time for that this year either. But hiking, walking, just being out in nature, laughing with people, whether it's my family or friends. Yeah, I think the thing with making art for me is like it's quiet. Like I can quiet my mind instead of, because otherwise all the time my mind's like hamsters on 17 wheels up there spinning, figuring out life. And when I'm doing art, I'm just like, I think I need to add green here. You know, I'm gonna file a little metal there. And like, I can just I just shuts everything else down and quiets me.
I love that. We had Sandy Darden who did visual journaling. We had Cheryl Meal who did neurographic art, which by the way, if you have not seen anything about neurographic art, check that out. Cheryl did not invent it. She just learned about it and then established a lesson plan. It's also available free on Nasco Education. And we had Beth Allums, and I talk about all three of them because they were all from the Virginia Art Education Association member forum, which is a free Facebook page too. And they did these Friday night draws. And so I would, early in the pandemic, I was like, I need art teachers. So I would go on their Facebook Live with them and do art and I thought I wasn't going to meet another new art teacher in 2020. And I like that. I'm not joking. It just made me super sad. I have met so many more new people this year than I probably did in a regular face-to-face year. And now I can't wait to meet them live someday. Fabulous comments coming through, like Pam thanking us for wonderful sessions. Kelly, all of you guys have inspired her because it has been a super hard session. You know, thank you guys. Thank you. Seriously, Bob, thank you. Like, don't be thanking us. Well, thank them, but don't be thanking NASCO. Like, this is what we do. But you know, you can't help but when you start talking about 2020 and you start talking about, you know, how would you describe 2020? I mean, let's be honest, like nasty words come out of people's mouth. You know what I mean? Worst year ever. And then, you know, probably all kinds of bad words that, you know, I would probably never use. But I can't help but seriously be constantly inspired by what has taken place through Maker Mondays and the interactions that I've had with people and what I see on social media. So many positives, so much sharing, so much helping, so much, I mean, on the online art teacher group, like there's just days where somebody will be like, hey, I just need to vent. And all of a sudden there'll be 200 comments of people building that person up and you've got this and we're hanging in there, or like, oh my gosh, I know what you mean. Like, you know, first day back and I fell down in the hallway, and I'm like, I'm not even laughing because that would be me. But, just people are like, oh my gosh, I did the same thing. I tipped my whole cart over and, it's like there's always somebody who points out the good too. But we didn't get to your takeaway for the year.
Oh man.
Sorry.
Kris, there's just so many. I think I would go very much in the same lines as Susie and Devin. And I've talked with Frank Korb, who I work with, about this as well. And both he and I are kind of sort of type A-ish people, little controlling, or like we like knowing what's happening next and like how having things planned out. And you had to this year, you just had to like throw that out the window and just say, we're going to plan week by week right now. And, this is what my curriculum normally is. This is what my goal is. I might not get through all my units and that's okay. And the quality of work that my students do might not be as good as it always is. But what's more important is that they're doing some work and that they're okay and that they're happy. And so just changing priorities a little bit and letting go and accepting the moment that we're in, which honestly is probably a much healthier way to live in the long term. So maybe I'll carry that through.
I love that. I love it. I love what Greg posted. He says, today and Maker Mondays are the best therapy I could ask for. I feel like I'm with my people and get so inspired. Thank you so much. You are my people. I totally resonate with that. And my takeaway was people matter, people matter, relationships matter. And, all of a sudden when you were at home teaching, or in our case, at home working, it used to be that you might be in the break room or you might pass by somebody's office and you stop in and say hello. Well, nobody pops into my spare bedroom and says hi to me. Occasionally my husband waves to me and I'll be like, I'm on a call right now. But yeah, that it doesn't happen. And so you miss some of that communication. And I just felt like when I did Maker Mondays, I had this opportunity, and now more than ever, being able to see your faces like this makes me happy to see somebody smile. Like I had to just pretend you were all laughing at my jokes and finding me as funny as I find me. Because I'm like, oh my God, I don't know how this is going. And occasionally somebody would type something, but in Zoom, everybody's way comfortable chatting. In GoToWebinar, it was like there was no chat button. There was just questions and they didn't want to put a comment. It was awful. But I love that connection making. And I just think that is so important. Does anybody have any questions for the panel? I want you guys to feel like you can ask questions too. So feel free to type them in. I also want to know the funniest thing that has happened to you in like Zoom or teaching this year. I won't call you out. Okay, good.
Well, I have one, but it has nothing really to do with Zoom. It may have just been funny in the moment. So please forgive me if you don't find this humorous. So every year my students apply for the Scholastic Art Awards. Susie, I think I told you this one. And so I showed them how to set up an account and to sign in and where to go for stuff. Cause it's a little confusing, right? And so I did half the process. I put in a couple pieces of my art and a couple words. I didn't even finish filling out the info. I didn't go to the send it in button or anything. I stopped literally halfway through. And then my students all turned in their stuff. And then it was, I think January or February, it comes back and we get the list. And two of my students that had put a lot of stuff in, we say, well, the list came out, who's on it, who's on? So we were looking and I was like, oh, Jesse, oh, you got this. Oh, Ellie, look, oh, and Jose got that. And then I looked and my name was on the Scholastic Art Awards. I got a gold.
What did you say? Yay. What
So
did you submit?
It was a piece I did called Ephemeral. It was a large piece with wood burns, magnolia in the background. I emailed, it's not Shannon anymore at the woman in charge at the Milwaukee Art Museum. I was like, hello, this is super embarrassing and I don't know how this happened. But just so you know, I'm a teacher and not a student, and my name is on the list. So she took me off, and Ellie and Jesse, the two students from me, they're like, Miss Szabo, you should have left it on to see how you did at nationals. I was like, I can't do that.
That is so
yeah,
great.
that was a whoops moment.
No, it's awesome.
So we were doing some singing at the beginning of the year, and I had a kindergartner tell me, Mr. Calvert, when you sing, I get a headache. I said, oh, honey, you are in for a long year.
Oh, boy.
I feel like it's been so long since we had them all virtual, because we've been back in person since January. But I remember making the switch back to all virtual. And granted, it gets old really fast, but I really liked it. Like, I liked seeing all of their sweet little faces on their camera, and just the crazy spaces that kids were making art in, like cupboards under the stairs, under bunk beds, on their patio. There's one kid who was zooming from their pool. Like, I mean, they just were so creative, and with the distraction mindset, with 5-year-olds, like, I just embraced it. It was just like, let's draw my dog Ginger. So I'd bring my dog to the Zoom, or let's grab the kitten, and the kitten would come to Zoom. Like, I mean, we just kind of went with the flow, and like, we had a lot of fun. Like, I don't know. I loved it.
Always surprised me about my high school kids. Like, I'd hear stories from you guys or my own children about like
Younger students. I'd have high school kids, we'd be talking, and all of a sudden, like, they'd lean over and then they'd put their dog, these are like seniors in high school, like their dog in front of the camera, or like be like, Miss Szabo, my lizard's here with me today. Look at my lizard. And, we talk about it, but I was like, this is hilarious. Like, you guys are,
They're still children.
yeah,
they're still kids, and it was
make
so
your mommy heart feel
fun.
good.
Yes, yeah, they were so
Yes.
excited to share their animals.
Yeah,
and
my 13-year-olds were the same way. They always were very excited if the animals were in the room.
Yes.
And they could Zoom. And I'm like,
yeah, yeah.
I just feel like you're on mute never got old. I still find it funny when somebody's like, you're on mute, like, come on. I still go on mute sometimes. The other one that I wanted to bring up was Daniel Bryant. He is also known as Art Virtue on Facebook. And he posts a lot of like videos from his class, and it was Martin Luther King Jr. birthday. And he's talking about it, and these kids are just saying like beautifully profound stuff. And then the one little boy says, Mr. Bryant, my dad says I can't eat a snack on Zoom. And it's so random. And he's just like, well, it's okay. If you want to have a snack, tell Dad that Mr. Bryant said it's okay if you have a snack. I had a first grade Spider-Man spend 50 minutes with us one day, mask on the whole time. That was from Bob. I got a personalized mug for Christmas that said, don't make me mute you. I love that. Somebody else says I have a I'm on mute shirt. And Leah Keller says Daniel Bryant is going to be keynote speaker for Wisconsin Art Ed. The other one was, what has been the greatest source of support for you this year?
I think fellow art teachers, like we have in Fort, I mean, we were talking about it in our meeting. Angie had a wonderful day off today, so she missed all the good things we were saying in our meeting, but it was, Frank was saying about how it's so nice to work in a district where he likes our entire team, like our entire art department. There's 8 of us and we are really tight. And so that's been wonderful to have a supportive art team in the district. And then my girl crew that I check in with. And then my other best friend is a 3rd grade teacher. And so, I mean, having like teachers as friends, people who know what you're going through, who can be empathetic, that's been a huge support. And then of course, my husband is awesome. Like he's very good at emotional support.
Nice.
I think I'm obligated to say my wife. I
He
know I've
means it,
mentioned her
though.
already. Yes, she's the best. Once again, art teachers, because we're virtual this year, or most of our meetings are virtual, I've been able to meet with the other art teachers every week, which isn't always the case. Typically, it's like just a couple times a quarter.
Right.
And because I'm typically at 2 buildings, but I'm only teaching at 1 this year, all those classroom teachers are teaching art, which I think they're more supportive of what I go through in my classroom because now they have to teach art themselves. Yeah, they're in that position. They're in my shoes now. So I think that's kind of been an interesting take on this year as well.
How about you, Kris?
Oh, mine for sure is art educators, because without you, this year would have just sucked. I'm just gonna say the hard word. I wouldn't have had a job to do, and all of a sudden virtual became my job, and I got giggling because everybody at Nasco just seems to think like, oh, Kris, she loves to get out in front of the camera. They're not wrong. I'm 6 of 6, so I'm the youngest in my family. I love a lot of attention, but I also get insanely nervous because I have a heart for art teachers. I love you so much, and I don't want to disappoint, and I want to do a good job, and I'm terrible at technology. Thank God for Andy. But the whole thing is just hard, and I get nervous, and I get tongue-tied, and my mouth gets really dry, and all kinds of stuff. But you show up, and like somehow you always end up encouraging me. And I'm like, no, that's my job to encourage you. So, and that I'm constantly a learner. Like now I keep learning. I'm grateful. I now have, 90,000 art teachers out there. And I do call sometimes. I'm like, Angie, what do I do on this? I'm going to send you a picture. Tell me what to do.
And
so
my advice is
Add white, right?
add white, Kris.
well, and rarely ever does she tell me, she'll be like, you're the artist. What do you think you want to do? I like the one that Shelly says, she was on quarantine and zoomed into her classroom where a sub was watching the kids. And when the kids found out where the camera was, they were like sticking their eyeballs up to it. So I think that is hilarious. I love you too, Heather. Heather did an amazing session on social and emotional learning. And that was another one where it was jam-packed full of information on all kinds of stuff. So again, if you want to know a little bit more about Nasco Educate and the whole professional development library, please reach out. I'm not trying to do like a shameless plug, but I do work here. I do work here, at the end of the day. But I couldn't be more blessed to work for all of you. So your,
My support.
your support.
I would say other art teachers, both, district, my counterpart at the high school, art teachers that I worked with when I taught in lacrosse or that were here before, our current team. I found a lot of support in online art teacher groups this year on Facebook, and I do more Facebook than I do Instagram because I'm old. I think that's true. I think like it is like, an age thing. You're younger than me though.
Just like a skosh.
Yes,
I'm the
but-
oldest here, so I'm just gonna go ahead and agree. Like, I don't know. That Instagram is like,
But
heart.
It's
That's all I do.
pictures.
Yeah.
It's just pretty
It's just
pictures.
pictures.
I love
But that's been great. There was like moments where I had like really was struggling, but I didn't feel like talking to people around me. Like I needed like a more anonymous sort of place to get help, and people were so kind and supportive. And I've seen the same thing for other people where people will be like, I have COVID, my husband had COVID, now I have to do lesson plans and I'm sick. And people are like, here's this, let us help you. And I think that just builds us up to see like there's so many people that care about you that don't even know you. They just care about people.
Yeah.
And I think art teachers are beautiful and wonderful. We're amazing.
There's a little on the screen. I always love it when somebody throws their baby in there, or their cat is like walking behind them. I find that so awesome. Yeah, I'm enjoying too, like Leah's asking Shelly, are you making a basket? What do you have?
That's what I wanted
going
to know
on?
too.
Yes.
Because it looks, I saw like reeds and it looks.
Yeah, she says I'm working with pine.
Oh, boy.
Working with pine needles, got to keep my hands busy.
I feel that.
So
That's
Shelly
awesome.
Williams, you may have to share that lesson plan so that we can or put it on our Facebook page. Leah taught us how to crochet, which was great.
That was so fun.
But you guys, we only have 2 minutes left and I can't even believe it. So as we close, I want to thank all of you for coming and our past presenters that have joined us virtually. Angie, Susie, and Devin, I am so grateful every day that you are close. Thank you for being here. I also need to shout out Andy Nagel. Honest to God, you guys, this is all so on him in terms of making us look good and sound good. And again, Tanya Webster just outdid herself in terms of bringing what she does beautifully on social media to real life. And these are real cake pops and I can't wait to eat one. But to end today, I'm going to read a letter that was written by Jamie Klinger-Krebs. Jamie is the manager of digital design and copy at Nasco Education. Along with having a background in writing and digital design, Jamie is the granddaughter of a well-respected teacher who taught her the importance of art education and the fact that being a teacher is one of the coolest and toughest jobs there is. So she really did capture what I feel and all of us feel at art education. And I'm going to try really hard not to start crying. I don't typically cry, but this letter kills me. Dear teachers, what a profound year it's been for you, for our kids, for all of us. Change has enveloped all of us this year, and I, like you, want to encapsulate the disruptions, minimize the trauma, and just get on with my life. But even more than that, as a parent, I want to see my daughter, who will be starting their freshman year of high school in the fall of 2021, excited to learn again inside a classroom each day. I want to see her walk through those doors next year, mask-free and ready to take on new challenges without the burden of a global pandemic or the fear that she's not prepared for what comes next. And I know you want to be there too, doing what you do best for kids like mine. Though she might not feel ready just yet, I know you've done everything in your power to help mitigate the disruptions in her learning since the beginning of the pandemic. This fact is not lost on me or any other parent like me. Last year at this time, we were certain of one thing: we were all in this together. But as the year wore on, we began to witness social, economic, and political situations that left many of us feeling weary, angry, and divided, sometimes within our own families. As a means of self-protection, we may have folded into ourselves and lost our ability to articulate this to our kids properly or with the right level of sensitivity. That's when you became an interpreter and a shoulder to lean on, not only for us, but also for them. You kept listening, kept encouraging, and because of you, we learned that sometimes there's simply no right explanation. All we can do is keep learning, especially from our own mistakes. Still, as resilient as you have been, please know that we as parents know how tired you must be right now. We've put a lot on your shoulders, and we know that the pandemic has taken a toll on you too. For a while, and maybe even still, it took your students, your classroom, and the foundation of learning that you so carefully built. Now, your already tough job has become even more challenging. You're juggling virtual, in-class, hybrid teaching, or asynchronous schedules that makes your head and ours spin. You're dealing with confused students, frustrated, and sometimes rude and disrespectful parents, while learning how to master technology that was never really supposed to become part of your daily life. Your passion for teaching may have been tested this year like never before. And as a result, some of you may be reaching your breaking point. Please know that we recognize your exhaustion, and more importantly, we see you. We see all that you have done, and we see all that you continue to do. We are so very glad you stayed in this fight with us, because we simply could not have done it without you, especially when our kids were sent home and we tried to juggle parts of your job along with our own and failed miserably at both. As the school year draws to a close, we promise to take some of the heavy load we've placed on you. We're better equipped to handle it now because you've taught us a few important lessons too. We know that when we work together for our kids, we can and will make a difference. After all, it's their future at stake. If we learned this lesson well, our kids will be okay and they'll go on to create a better world, largely thanks to you. Though I could go on and on here, basically what this letter boils down to is gratitude. Gratitude for all you do, all that you are, and all you still want to achieve as an educator, oftentimes without a shred of recognition you deserve. You've had an unfathomable, I hate that word, year, but you are still here. You kept going. You found new creative ways to keep our kids learning. You became a true hero in every sense of the word. And once again, you have shown us all as parents, colleagues, and friends what it means to be teacher strong. So from all of us at Nasco Education, on behalf of parents everywhere, thank you so very much for never giving up on yourself or our kids. Your impact will never be forgotten. We are so grateful that in these defining moments of our lives, you were and are still here. Thanks, everybody.